A very warm welcome to the Focus Bee Show. I am thrilled today to be here with Arnaud Collery. Arnaud is the CEO of Humanava, a coach, an author, a storyteller, multiple TEDx speaker, and a great advocate and believer for happiness and passion. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Arnaud.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
You have gone through so many experiences, so many different jobs and professions that it was really hard for me to pick just a few words to describe your experience. What is it that fuels you and drives you every day?
Really reinventing myself. Like, what else can I be? You know, what else can I discover about myself? You know, how am I going to do in this time? How am I going to do with those people? I'm really both a student of myself and a student of the world, and I'm really fascinated by the life itself. You know, life as, I guess, an experiment. You know, on Facebook, I think I call myself expérimenteur de vie, life experimenter, right? And this is really how I see myself. So yeah, I think it's so fascinating to just observe yourself from an outsider and see what else. You know, who are you in this situation? And then every time I learn something new about myself or the world or people around me, it's just that fuels me, right? I mean, people, for instance, I just came back after 20 years back to France. I live in Bordeaux. We're launching a new project, and the new friends I'm making here now, they actually think this is going to be my life. That's it. I'm a startup guy and based in Bordeaux, and I told them, oh no, this is going to be only for a few years, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to be in 4 or 5 years from now, but I'm already excited about it. I'm excited about the fact that I know I will change. And it doesn't mean I'm not focused while I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm focused. I mean, comes Monday morning, I'm just, weekends, it's mostly for my 3 years old son now. But comes Monday morning, it's about work and I'm just, that's it. We're going, and then, you know, starting maybe Thursday night, I'm starting to think about my next life in 2, 3 years down the line. But during the day, I'm focused on whatever I'm doing now.
Amazing. And I know you also wrote a book on this exact topic about reinventing yourself. So really it's about the experimenting process. I also know from one of your TEDx talks that you also went through a phase where things weren't going as well. And in this whole mix of experimenting, there were some lows. Could you tell us a bit more about these times and how you overcame this period?
Sure. So, yeah, as you said, I had a few different lives. In 2010, right? Yeah, we in LA. I'm still living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was a producer, comedian, screenwriter, somewhat actor at the time. You know, appearing in things like Gilmore Girls and stuff like this, as either the French lover of French weather. You know, there's nothing else. America sees me as a French weather of French lover. That's it. Uh, and at the time, I I was doing less acting. I was doing more comedy, and I was doing more producing film. One of my film could not get distributed for the. We could not get a distribution deals, and it was really tough. Like I'm like, finally, finally, I know who I am. Right? I was 35 years old, and and the problem is in terms of I guess self-awareness is when you identify too much with what you think you are. So I was loving my life as a comedian, director, actor. I loved it. I was in LA, working out on the beach and making actor and writing and directing. Yet I was that, yet I'm much more than that. So it's okay to embrace and love your life. Yet you need to keep, I think, in the back of your mind that what you do is not just what you are, right? You're much more. So what I did was fine, but the problem is when I went down, which means what I was doing was I was not successful, and so it did not fulfill myself anymore. Um, then I thought, who am I? And I get really depressed. Plus, there was a lack of money at the time because I could not survive. There was no more money coming from what I was doing. So who I am if I'm not what I think I am now? So I went for a period from 2010 to 2012, 13. I had to rediscover myself once again. And I tried many things, and it was fascinating also because that's when I went to Africa and I did humanitarian work, and I was doing that in Tanzania, and then I went to South Africa and I helped a tech incubator get off the ground, and many things. And I went back to Tokyo, and I was a nightclub promoter for a while. So, new lives, right? Yet it was a new process. I was searching for what was going to be my new thing from 2010 to 2000. But it was tough. I was depressed at the moment and hired some. It took me 2-3 years to really go back up, right? And 2013, I'm in a tribe. I'm in Ecuador, spending 1 month in a tribe, and there, I do believe in terms of understanding your life purpose. There is uh, either what Japanese people call the kensho, which is the big gradual change of time, which means something big happened to you and it takes you a few years to get the process of it. Or there is what the Japanese call the satori. Satori is, en français, prise de conscience, means those moments where you just super conscious of what's happening, right? And for me, I was in a tribe, and all of a sudden, I was listening to the shaman talking, and this is what I'm gonna be my next life. I'm not gonna be a shaman because I'm not gonna stay in South America just, being half naked and with a fire. I just got married to my wife, and she there was just the idea of staying in a tribe for the rest of her life. No, like okay, fine, fine. So let's go back to New York, and I'll be a corporate shaman, which means I'll listen to employee, tell the story of their life, and within it, maybe I can help them to understand their purpose. And basically, that's what I had done for like 7 years, among other things. But one of the things I was doing a lot of corporate workshop around storytelling. And then on the side, I was, doing this event called Stand Up for Passion. You can watch the YouTube channel where what I would do is we went around the world, like Nepal, Japan, South America, and we would find the best story. We could find stories of transformation where people really change their mind, their idea of self, and decide, like I did many times, to just change life. And often with no means or very little means financially. They just the power of just will and just decided, what if I were to change it? What if I just change life now? Sometimes it takes a few weeks, a few months, sometimes a few years, and it's fine. It doesn't have to be fast. But the process of change, I'm fascinated by it. So all those people I met, uh, we help them, I help them mostly to find the story of transformation. What was that moment of life, that pivot where everything changed? And I'm fascinated by this. So it's a long answer to your question, but hopefully we get to your question.
It's such a beautiful explanation of your own transformation and your passion for the transformative process. Also, really love the way you describe being a corporate shaman, basically as a coach, because I always feel that being a coach is like being a magician. And this is just like putting two and two together. I'm not the only person that sees this. It is like magic because getting to see that transformation, being a part of it, the results, even the whole energetical shift around it is pure magic. And this is not something I often talk about. So it's nice to bring it up on the podcast.
Now, it's something you know, I talk like this mostly on podcast and stuff. I don't always talk like this when CEO hire me. I don't say I'm a corporate shaman, but I am, right? I mean, they sit on my books and podcast, but not on the, let's say, the one-to-one sales pitch, let's say. But it's exactly, I mean, when you mention energy, vibration, one time I was, and I encourage you to go to that event if you have not been yet. In Amsterdam, every year, they do a huge happiness festival. I don't know if you know that. It's produced by the Happiness magazine. I don't know if you know it. Happiness magazine is the #1 magazine in Holland, and it's actually bigger than Business magazine or Feminine magazine. In this festival, 10,000 people come every year. Fascinating. And I had the chance to be invited in 2000. I'd say, I don't know, 17, maybe 2017, 2018. And we were 63 speakers. So a lot of conference, right? At the time, that was before my book, was 2017, because I was the only speaker. We had not published a book at the time, so I remember that. And they like, we hire you despite the fact that you have not written a book, which was funny. Which was fun. I'm like, okay, thank you. And oh my God, I had a blast. It's such wonderful people there. And a guy, a Dutch guy, somehow, I don't know how I met him at the festival, but he's like, I was doing 2 workshops, and before I do the second workshop, he told me, do you allow me to calculate, measure the vibration of the room before and after you do something? And I'm like, sure, why not? I'm open to new experience. And so just before I speak, there was like, I don't know, 60 people maybe in my workshop at the time. And he came and he's like, I don't know how he does that. That's his work, right? Work with energy vibration. So he sort of put his hand and tried to feel the energy of the room. And then I do my thing for like an hour, and it's always very interactive. I love to have people talk and stuff and interact. And after I had left, he came, put his hand, and he saw like whatever. It was like, I don't know, plus 300% or whatever. I mean, there's no certification or, or science. And I never talked about it except today, right? And there is no, hey guys, look at the vibration of the room I did. But I do believe there is a change of vibration. I do believe there's a change of energy. And this is someone, which is maybe what you're doing as well. Someone in US called me the fire starter. Whenever I do a workshop, my goal is just to create the fire, right? And my goal is to help them understand how we put the fire, and it's up to you guys to keep the flame going on, right? So I ignite it. And then your goal as a corporate culture is to make sure it's always as positive, as high, and then by many tools like respecting everyone and making sure everyone has a voice, right? Everyone is respected, and then you play with that energy around. But yeah, there's certainly something to be said for energy.
Yes, that's for sure. And I know exactly what you're saying in terms of the energy in a room. And I think people can feel it. When you go in a room and there's been an argument, or if you go in a room and people are happy, there's just a quality somehow. It's hard to explain. And I think we need a certain type of awareness to pick up on it. But once we do learn to pick up on these things, we can't ignore them. Anyway, I'd like to come back to happiness. You've mentioned it a few times already, and I know that it's a topic that is dear to you, that you talk about a lot, and that is very, very linked to what we're saying about starting fires. I'm wondering, what are some of the greatest myths in terms of happiness, some of the greater things that people believe that aren't actually true?
So, I mean, the first myth, of course, is happiness is just about being joyful all the time. I mean, I'm usually joyful. You see me, if you see me in parties or, at work or whatever, usually I'm a smiling guy, and I like to say hi and talk to people, but I can have my down days, right? And so for me, anyway, being happy is being real with your emotion, really real, and being authentic with your goals, with where you are at now, right? I do believe people are happy otherwise they are, we always say align with your values. But for me, align with your values is really align with your priorities. You know where you are now. You know where you are, why you are where you are right now, right? I was telling you, now we have a new project in Bordeaux, and for me, it's clear. It's exactly what I need to do now. Hopefully it's going to work as great as I want, but this is what I have to do now, right? I'm clear. And I think as long as you're clear with your priorities, your basic happiness is there. So first, that it's not about being just joyful every day, even though showing and being grateful and searching for joy is part of it, right? And two, that really for me, happiness is about being aligned with your value, but at least being aligned with your priority in your life. And then third, that happiness, I'd say, is really to connect to others in terms of impact, right? So as long as you provide impact in people's life around you, usually you're happy. I mean, it's really hard to find people who give joy to people, right? And it doesn't have to be a coach, a life coach. It can just be a, you know, of course, a teacher of some sort, or just a baker, you know, someone who greet people every day, you know, it just provide good for somebody else. Then that person is a happiness provider, let's say. So that's what I have to say now. And if we go to, I mean, I can talk on and on for this subject. Of course, I've done hundreds of conferences on it. But if we go to the field of happiness at work for a second, if you want, it's really for me. I break it down on two things every time: is how can you provide, create, look for the joy, true, and then how can you provide purpose on a daily basis, right? So always coming back to the why, and the why of your product, your team, your company. So and then you can break down, you know, what is joy is and what is purpose. But as long as you are providing energy in creating joy, searching for joy, creating joy, and in terms of understanding your purpose, providing purpose for others, then you're good.
Again, this is so beautifully put. I'm taking two main points about what you said in terms of happiness, individual happiness, which it sounded to me like integrity and impact. So there was a great part about integrity and the impact we have. Now, I'd be curious, sort of indirectly, to know if maybe this is because for you, these are the things that bring you most happiness, or if it's in general for all of us. It's always a tricky.
So it's a tricky one, because I do believe for most people it's about integrating impact. Yet I'm totally aware of, you know, I don't there's no really study about it, but it seems, I don't know what is it, let's say 10-15% of people really are just happy um, being, let's say, in a consumer society and just going out and, you know, and buying a car when they need it, and just being with their family, like simple pleasure without impact, being a normal, let's say, a normal,
Citizen.
yeah, normal person, normal tool in the consumer society. It means, I'm just giving you a clear example. I'll say one of my friend, and I can't say who, of course, he's a very happy guy. You know, he used to be a finance guy. Now he's not in finance anymore because of the crisis. He found another work. He make enough money, not huge money, but he find enough money to provide for his two kids. He's going out, he's drinking his beer every night, not too much, but just he needs to have his beer every night. And he doesn't have deep conversation about life. He's 50 years old. He doesn't get this side. He's a very good friend of mine for 20 years, but he doesn't get that side of myself, right? Need to be, you know, purpose-oriented question about life. He doesn't get it. And honestly, he doesn't need it. He's really happy, and he's a good dad. So, you know, and he's, you know, he's not even doing sports, which, you know, it's a basic of health and life. I'm into sports. I need to do sports every day. I know the importance of sports. The guy has probably what we call, you know, there's a DNA of happiness. There's a Many studies show that basically some people are just born happy, no matter what happened to them, crisis or not, they'll stay the same, and there's super high level of just happiness. It's not it, it's not like resilience. It's something else. We can go into resilience, but it's really this sort of a basis of happiness, which no matter what, they have some sort of a accumulated joy from, often from childhood, often, often from a mom that was really loving and caring from them. Not always, but often those people. And they have just happy-go-lucky people. So those 10% doesn't need it, right? They have this just they you know, they just follow life, and they sort of autopilot, and they don't need coach, they don't need to read book about purpose, and they don't need what you and I love and fulfill our lives. Those guys, they are on a sort of autopilot. And then there's the other kind of people, men or women, same thing, who are, you know, it's about 5-8% of the population who are totally psychopath, and it's huge. I mean, it's 5-8% who are basically whatever emotion you give to them have no effect on them. Like they have no connection to their own emotion and emotion in others. And for them also, they are on sort of a autopilot, but those guys, they can just stay as an otaku, stay in a room by themselves and playing video games. It doesn't mean that people play video games are psychopaths. I never say that, right? But it means whatever they do, they don't need nothing else, and they don't need le lien social. They don't need the social connection we need. So it's about 20% of people. If you on both ends, so like the super happy people, no matter what, they have their own bubble of joy, and then those people who don't need emotion. If you put away those 20%, right? I guess 80% of people need what I talked about. So everyone else need to understand themselves, to know where they can find joy, where they can find energy. So finding energy, know where you can find energy based on your personality is a big, big, big part of happiness, right? So some of us find energy in sports. I do. I need it. Some find energy in talking to people. I do. I need it too. I'm happy to speak to you and love it. It gives me energy to know someone else in my field and interest in what I do and be interested in what you do. I need, so I know what I need to have joy and happiness. But many people, they say about 20% of people do not know themselves enough. They never take a pause to understand what makes them happy. I mean, I was coaching the other day in Bordeaux, an executive woman, 50 years old. And, with what happened to COVID, as you know, many people, all of a sudden there's the pause button and, oh my God, where am I? What, who am I? What has been running through my veins? What's driving me? She had no understanding, even though she's an executive woman. She's managing a lot of people, very successful, beautiful, 2, 3 kids. I mean, life was good, living in Bordeaux. Yet she never pushed the pause button and reflect on her life, who she's, how she's doing what she's doing, what impact she has on others, what is the rhythm of her life, what is the energy of her life. Never until now. And she's like, because she has time at home, she's working from home, she kept her job, but she's like, oh my God, basically she has no idea. And right now and so it's fascinating, right? Right now I'm following, I'm still involved. I'm launching my platform, but I'm still involved somewhat in coaching, with some personal coaching and some group coaching. So, for instance, every Friday night, I help 10 female coach to become coach. Basically, they're all in their early 40s. They've been certifying coaching about a year ago, and now they really want to become. They want to really make it their career and be really successful. Many of them were very successful in their business career, make the change. And one of them was not a business coach. She was a director of big restaurants, huge restaurant. And all of a sudden with COVID, she also had to face herself, right? And alone in her apartment with her 2 kids, she's like, oh, what am I doing for the last 20 years? Okay, I was really good at managing a restaurant, but is it really me? Did I have an impact? What was the purpose of it all? And she doesn't regret, but she's like so grateful. The the pause button has been on. So finally she can reflect on her life, and she really think like, oh my God, maybe I need to create a life on purpose. It doesn't mean that just managing a restaurant is bad. It means for her, she needs more than this. And for some people, managing a restaurant their whole life can be great, and it can be their purpose. That's their purpose. But for her, she understood it's not her purpose. She did it because she just fell into it. She was good at it. She's very extrovert. People love her. She knows how to manage a team. It worked, but it's maybe not what she meant to be in this lifetime. So she's switching completely, and it's fascinating to, she get to know herself. And like, so I get to meet a lot of people just in the midst of understanding themselves. And and for me, it's a big part of happiness, knowing yourself, knowing what brings you is energy, knowing what fills your heart, right? Uh, yeah.
Essentially, what you're saying is a lot of people have lived their lives on autopilot, and now that this pause button has just arrived, it forces them to confront maybe what impact they're having. Are they living with purpose? Is it bringing them joy and meaning? And so, in some ways, this is a blessing in disguise for some people, because it's an opportunity for them to raise their self-awareness, to finally look deeper inside and look for the meaning. Of course, this can lead to huge discoveries that can be hard for some people to cope with, you know, such as, what have I been doing the last 20 years? Does this make sense? Is this aligned? But isn't it better to find this out now than in another 20 years in your career?
I know, right? I mean, most people, the science of change basically is tough. Which 90% of people don't want to change unless there's a crisis. They don't like it, right? I love it, I embrace it, right? But most people they're not made that way, right? So, and it always comes like, I don't want to change. You know, I was working for a company here in Bordeaux, a big company, as a coach in residence for the last 6 months. It was a 6 months mission, and I was working half day a week, and just as a coaching residence. And what I proposed to the companies during the whole COVID period, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be a sounding board for those people, like sort of an empathy sounding board. They're just going to expose their challenges, their mental trauma, if any, and I'll just listen and maybe open to some solution, but just mainly listen, be there for them. Uh, and I remember one of those women, 50 years old, she's like, Arnaud, I might be fired with what happened. I don't want to be fired. I'm like, yeah, but it's possible. The company, but no money. You will be okay to survive. No, I will not. I don't want to be. I'm like, let's work on, you're going to be okay. You're going to be after, and let's work on accepting and you be okay. So it took me a couple of weeks, but she understood that basically we went for a life story, and she understood how skilled she is in so many fields that no matter what, she'll be okay. So I say, what I want you to, we don't know if you're going to be fired. My goal is I hope you're not going to be fired, but I have no control on this. You have no control. If there is absolutely no money in the company, it's going to be tough. Let's work on scenario number one. You keep in the company. What else can you do in the company? What else you can propose that for the company it's worth to keep you? And let's work on scenario number two, where in case they no longer need you, not because they don't like you, because they just can't afford a salary. And it took maybe 2-3 weeks, but to accept and to understand through basically listening to her own life story, through my mouth, my words, she's like, oh, I'll be fine. And thanks God she's still in the company and it's fine. But she was, at least she did a mental shift that I will be fine no matter what. And I accept what maybe if and I understand it's tough, especially for 45, 50 years old people who've been staying in a company for 10, 15, 20 years, might have 2 kids that they might no longer be necessary in a COVID time. It's tough, but the day you accept the situation, and it's a really relief. And now she was happy, and and we can even talk about energy. Maybe it was because she was okay with no matter what that she actually kept the job, right? Because she was fine, and then she was so relaxed, and she proposed idea, and they kept her. Maybe spiritually also working her, but I think it's it's so linked.
Definitely. It's so true. I feel that it's when you learn to let go and accept that no matter what, things will be okay, that things even improve and you get more successful because you're not hanging on to it. And this is also something you shared at the beginning in terms of identity. And when you had that identity sort of clinging and you managed to let go, and then you were able to overcome it and change. And it's interesting what you were sharing right now with this client, because it reminds me of one of the episodes I went through with one of my clients, and essentially it comes down to this: helping them to know how resourceful they are. And once they know they are resourceful, once they remember how often they have overcome challenges in the past, it makes it so much easier for them to confront it. And one last point regarding change, because you also talked a lot about people being reluctant to change. I feel that it's a mindset. And in your case, in my case, a bit less than you, but also in my case, we've embraced this sort of change mindset. I know that in my case, it came from working at sea, having to be flexible, things changing at last minute, suddenly being in the middle of a storm, and you can't work or sleep and you have to adapt. And so learning this adapting process can help us to manage change more effectively. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they're not actually put in circumstances and they don't seek circumstances to favorite this sort of change in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've said it all. That's exactly this. You sum it up. I mean, it's a. They really have to see as an amazing as a metamorphose. It's a beautiful word. We say it in English, right?
Yeah,
Metamorphosis.
metamorphosis.
It's metamorphosis is such a we transform, we get better. I spent 4 years in Japan, and in Japan there's something in terms of resilience called the art of kintsugi. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a fascinating concept. As a coach yourself, you're gonna love it. And it's the fact that actually broken, you actually worth even more. You're more beautiful, right? You have scars. I mean, you really like a person. I mean, especially as you grow older, right? You for you, for when I say for you, for me, for everyone, it's a person becomes beautiful when he or she has the scars of life, right? When she just, it's not being like just one way. It's boring. It's one line people, right? I mean, I I don't get fascinated by those people, no matter how successful they are. If they're not honest with their vulnerability, with the failure, I'm bored, right? I want to feel that of course I love successful people, but successful people who love to be honest about what happened in the past, which was tough, and what may be still tough, what lies ahead, right? Someone said there is no success or even happy people with an easy past. It doesn't happen. So to keep that in mind, right? And people are saying just be okay with it. Your paradox, your hurdles, your obstacles. This is what's going to make you, right? You're not, if I even go back to one of my life, I was a stand-up comedian for a few years in LA, and my teacher at the time said, "Arnaud, you're too happy to be funny." And I was